Next, we are going to look back at a story here at ABC7 that was nearly 32 years in the making.
Our D.C. Bureau Chief Sam Ford has followed the lives of two kids off and on since the late 80s. So, Sam, you have to tell us why and how all of this started.
Well, Carl, it was the height of the crime and crack epidemic here in D.C. Homicides twice what they are now. And our news director then, the late Bob Richbloom, told me to go out and find two kids, one in a stable situation, another in an unstable situation, and show their lives. So I did, and I just couldn't stop following.
It's a story about two boys growing up in two of D.C.'s worst drug areas.
Two kids. When we met them in the spring of 1989, they were both fifth graders. James Green, honor roll student who lived in a now demolished project in Southeast, his mom attended.
Spell official.
Official. O-F-F-I.
And Christopher Oglesby, age 10, struggling to make it any way he could, pumping gas to selling newspapers, living at a drugged-out New York Avenue homeless shelter, the Capital City Inn.
Fighting, shooting, guns.
He lived with his two brothers and mom, who had not sent them to school.
In a week and a half, yeah.
We tried to follow the two kids in the more than 30 years since. James cut us off around age 14, teased by peers for being on TV.
James cut them off, cut off contact with the news people when he was 14 because he was teased by peers for being on TV. Let me tell you something about that. And it took me a long time to learn this, and I wouldn't expect him to have known this at the age of 14. But if you're 18, 20, in your early 20s, young men, and you're listening to this, know this. Please, I hope if it's any black young brothers listening right now that you take heed to what I'm about to say. There's more ways to hate on you than to just rob you, beat you up. Hating comes in many forms. One of the ways that brothers hate on you is they mess up the good things you got going on in your life. Okay? For instance, you go to the club and you meet some young scallywags who ain't gonna do nothing but ruin your life or take you down or just keep you at the same level you are. Your boys is all for that. They don't care. They're not against that. You meet you a young chick that's going places, that's gonna elevate you, take you to a different level, show you new things, be a blessing in your life, they gonna be mad about that, and they gonna try to get her out the picture. And you gonna hear it in little things they say, little things they do. Little sneaky stuff they do to try to break y'all up or mess y'all up or, distance y'all. You get a mentor in your life. Maybe a guy who's a big businessman in the community takes you under his wing. They're going to tease you. They're going to try to get you to not ride that man's coattail or take his tutelage or benefit from being in his life. Not because they think it's funny, but because they know if they tease you, you'll probably distance yourself and cut yourself off from that, and you won't elevate. Because if they had that, I guarantee you, if the dudes who was teasing him about being on TV was on TV, they wouldn't have. That's one thing you gotta learn about haters too. They got something good, they ain't giving it up. Oh, they ain't giving up their good stuff. But they'll tease you and mock you until you give up your good stuff or feel ashamed. Most time people just feel ashamed. They don't actually give up their blessings. And that's a victory for the haters. But in some cases like this, people do give up their blessings because haters every dude who made fun of him for being on TV and having his life be followed, every one of them dudes got an IG, a TikTok, be making videos, posting videos on Facebook. Every one of them dudes. Every one of them dudes is out here making YouTube videos, posting pictures, 1,000 pictures a day. I'm here. I'm at the Burger King. Hey, look at me. I'm at the mall. I got my kids at the Splash Park. They're chronicling everything that's going on in their life. I guarantee you, every dude that's still alive that was making fun of him is on social media chronicling every minute of their lives that they can. We just got a crab. We just got some crabs, a bushel of crabs. Look at us. We got a bottle of Hennessy. Look at us. I feel bad that this brother let it, but I know how peer pressure is. So, I mean, trust me, I've been there. I had some mean haters on me in my life, man. And I know all the brothers have. If you're a brother, you done had some mean haters on you. But you ain't even know how bad they was hating. Because we only look at the overt stuff as hating. We don't see the little slick stuff like they try to ruin your blessings. You got something going good, they try to get you to go bad. They don't support you when you're doing the right thing. They only support you when you're doing the bad things. That's hating too.
We tried to follow the two kids in the more than 30 years since. James cut us off around age 14, teased by peers for being on TV. Christopher and his family fled D.C. after witnessing a murder and testifying. By age 13, he was doing well in a school in Cambridge, Maryland.
Down here, like, you don't see people getting killed and everything like you did in Washington, D.C.
And this is the things that you go through in the ghetto, man. That's why Tretch said, if you ain't never been to the ghetto, don't never come to the ghetto. Because you wouldn't understand the ghetto. So stay the hell out of the ghetto. Witnessed the murder, testified, and had to move 100, 200 miles away from your home. How many of y'all? And not the only murder you witnessed. Like this guy living on at that shelter where he was living at with, oh my God. Living in the projects. Can you imagine how many murders he's seen? For some reason, this one, they testified. And they had to get up out of there. It's rough being a brother. That's one of the things I try to convey to y'all that ain't brothers. Because y'all hear how rough it is being a brother as from the white side. Like, white people did this to us, white people doing that to us, white people doing this stuff. The roughest stuff you're going to go through as a brother is going to be from within your own community. Just like the roughest things you're going to go through as a white guy is going to be from other white people. Just like as an Asian. You grow up in the Asian community. The majority of the roughest things you're going to go through going to be from your other race, from your same race. But this is what brothers go. These are the things that kids, black kids, when you see them in school, this the stuff that they going through. This stuff is just, when I see these stories, I think of so many kids I knew and the things I remember one time I was at school and it was a kid. He was just punching the lockers. I mean, and he was like punching the lockers, denting them, and crying and whatnot. And a bunch of guys was just like, he drew attention. So he was all over there. He was like, what the hell? Somebody, went up to him, was like, yo, what's going on? What's up, man? What's wrong? Because he was crying and whatnot. He was like, man, my mother She sold all my clothes and my video games for crap. It was like, damn. But that was his life. Because clothes is a big thing when you in the stand. Like, that's what you judge by. Like, girls don't look at your face, they look at your tennis shoes. First thing a girl looks at in the stand is your tennis shoes. That's the first thing she looks. She does not look at your face. Your face is the second thing she looks at. In your outfit and clothes, you get picked on so much for not having the right gear, the right clothes, or whatever they call them, wherever you're at. It's very important. More important than grades. Far more important than grades or the way you act or what college you want to go to. Far more important than all that stuff. And of course, video games. Boys love video games. But yeah, his mom sold his clothes and his video games for crap. There wasn't nothing he could do about it.
Christopher and his family fled D.C. after witnessing a murder and testifying. By age 13, he was doing well in a school in Cambridge, Maryland.
Down here, like, you don't see people getting killed and everything like you did in Washington, D.C.
But by age 18,
You been locked up down here?
I never really been locked up. I have been arrested a couple times, but I never been locked up.
months later, arrested for robbery and assault, 4 years in prison. But when we next saw him at age 30, he was a single dad working 2 jobs and rearing 3 sons on his own, ages 5 to 7, Lavelle, Kenyatta, and Shakir. His proud mom, a frequent babysitter.
He's raising his children on his own. And there's a lot of men out there that don't do that.
Really, after my first son was born, it just, gave me a whole new outlook on life.
Can your daddy cook?
Yes.
Really? What can he cook?
Anything.
Like what?
He cooked pancakes.
He says it wasn't easy.
I've had my lights cut off. I've had my stuff put out on the street.
We're in Denton, Maryland. Christopher Oglesby is a dad with teenagers of his own.
7 kids. Most of them I've taken care of almost their whole life.
7 kids. Single dad. Man. And you can't expect a guy to be like this coming from his background. So he beat the odds, as they say.
7 kids. Most of them I've taken care of almost their whole life.
In 2020, a lot more kids and recently remarried.
Pops, you want this one?
Yeah, just bring that out.
Age 42, he's an area manager for a janitorial company, and he has his own company on the side. His boys, Lavelle now 16, Shakir 19, often helping him.
Most last year they worked with me, on certain contracts. Just recently, my oldest son worked with me on a contract, and we got a couple more we're going to do next week.
And how was Dad as parent?
He wants us to become better, to achieve better. It's hard being an older brother. Sometimes. Having to take charge of the house when he's gone and having to make them do the right thing so we all won't get in trouble and stuff.
Remember we said James?
So I can be smart.
Cut us off at 14. Recently, he reintroduced himself to me on the street. Wow, what was he doing now? Well, no wife or kids yet, but the owner of Jagger Barbershop in Waldorf, Jagr for James Green, also now 42. His life also had ups and downs. In his 20s, a year in prison for selling drugs.
It wasn't a death sentence, it wasn't a life sentence, but it was time for me to sit down and think, okay, so what are you going to do from here?
Wow. Wow, man. Wow. Both brothers went to jail. One for robbery, one for selling drugs. And they both came out and became productive citizens. I didn't hear yet any of them talking about white people or anything the system or anything did to them. The biggest issue that affected these guys was their parents. You are your parents. As I showed you guys when I did the interview with my mom. When I was young, we was on food stamps. Then as her career escalated and she went to different levels in her career, we all food stamps. Next thing you know, we living in the house. Next thing you know, we moved to a bigger house. All these kids, it's your parents, it's not white people. Look at the men these guys are and look at the kids that their kids are. It's your parents, it's not white people. That's basically what I want you to understand. It's your parents, it's not white people. If you live in the projects, if you from XYZ projects, it ain't because you a real soldier or you was destined to be a G. It's because your mom filled out a bunch of applications, and the project that called back first was XYZ projects. If another building had called her, it said that they approved her rental application, you'd be from that hood. If Section 8 would have called back with a house, you'd be from whatever hood that house was in. It's your parents, not white people.
It wasn't a death sentence, it wasn't a life sentence, but it was time for me to sit down and think, okay, so what are you going to do from here?
But he started working here at the barber shop, eventually bought the place, and lately publicity and accolades coming in for combining books with barbering.
Out here in Waldorf, and I can't thank the clients enough out here. They keep me here.
So 2 kids, from boys to men. So far, a happy ending.
Life is great, man.
I'm happy, I'm comfortable, I'm blessed.
We picked 2 kids out there at random. 32 years later, are they dead? No. Did they end up in jail? Yes. But both of them told me that educational opportunities in prison helped them after they got out. And so, folks, it ain't all bad news, and I'm happy to be able to report that to you.
Salute, hats off to this brother, man. Salute to this brother, man. Salute to this brother. And I feel so good because as a guy who does the news, you scour for great stories, for feel-good stories, for stories about black people where they're not criminals, where they're not ruining someone's lives through criminal activity, where they're not being buffoonish, where they're not the womp, 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 of the story. Constantly looking for that. And to seeing the pride beaming on his brother's face makes me so happy that both these men he followed turned out to be such great men, man. And when I say great, I mean that because I don't think that you have to play in the NBA or be a high-priced defense attorney or be some politician, you know, or be some millionaire entrepreneur to be great. You can be great by appreciating everything you got, by raising your kids to be good people, by being thankful for the things, thankful to your customers. Like you heard the brother, he's thankful to his customers. This one brother, the brother Chris, He's raising all his kids. He's raising his kids without their mom. And he's got a janitorial business. He works one and he does one on the side, his own business. The brother James, the barber, all the dudes that made fun of him for being on TV, I'd like to see where they're at. Hopefully they're doing good. But he turned out to be something special, man. Barbershop, books, getting kids to read. In a community that has the worst reading level of all the other communities. Actively doing something to help that in his little community. In his little area, his domain. Yeah, he can't help every kid on the universe read better. But the ones he touches, he can introduce them to reading. He's a cool guy. The kids see he's into reading, they may be into reading. Just a great story, man. I'm so happy it turned out like this, man. And I know this brother is happy it turned out like that too. I know he's so happy it turned out like this, because it could have turned out another way and no one would have been surprised. We're surprised it turned out like this. This is the surprise. And it just comes from taking it one day at a time. Salute to these brothers, man. Salute to all three of these brothers. This brother, the two brothers that he followed from little kids. Such a heartwarming, great story, man. It makes me so happy, man. So happy to see this, man.
So, 2 kids, from boys to men. So far, a happy ending.
Life is great, man.
I'm happy. I'm comfortable. I'm blessed.
We picked 2 kids out there at random. 32 years later, are they dead? No. Did they end up in jail? Yes. But both of them told me that educational opportunities in prison helped them after they got out. And so, folks, it ain't all bad news. And I'm happy to be able to report that to you.
Wow.
Well, that is great, especially this time of year. I love to have a feel-good story like that. But while I was watching this, Sam, I was wondering, have Christopher and James ever met? Do they know about each other? I know they do now.
Actually, they have never met. I mean, they were aware of each other, obviously, for 30-some years, but they've never met. They both told me that they're interested in meeting, and we're all Instagram friends, and so that will probably happen.
And I know you mentioned that James cut you off between the age 14 and recently, but had you had any contact with him in that time when he was off the TV?
He wouldn't go on television, Carl, but he would occasionally contact. In fact, one time he was getting in trouble and he asked me if I would write the judge a letter, and I did. And when I talked to him recently, I asked him, I said, well, did it help? He said, yeah, it helped that time, but he got in trouble another time and ended up in prison.
Well, it's good to know Sam Ford, I'll tell you that.